talking about C.S. Lewis's The Abolition of Man. C.S. Lewis starts off his lecture really going after a couple of educators and ends up going on this this talk about the Tao, as he refers to it, as the future maybe of ethics, of well, we were just talking about it off the mic, but I mean, how else would you describe it? It's he spent so long on those one guys, the textbook writers.
Yeah.
But really, I guess like the state of education, in a sense, he touches on that. Gosh,
I feel like he leads off with the state of education, but doesn't he really, like, it's not just about the state of education. It's the comment on the human.
Yeah.
And the way we think about things and the way we exercise power and the way we allow power to be exercised over us.
Yes. I'm trying to look through my notes here to kind of see if I can find like a chain of thinking for myself. But Lewis does kind of get into religion a little bit, which I think is, we are aware of C.S. Lewis because of his, I think, religious writings, but also obviously because of Narnia, which I would almost, would you classify those as religious writings?
Not on the surface, no.
Okay.
But knowing what you know about them, and once you've read them, you're like, oh, I get it. I get the parable.
Especially the big one.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah. He kind of touches on that a little bit. I think that was one thing that I really kind of liked about the book was, or I don't even know how to describe it really, because it is, I think that I have found on YouTube him going through these lectures. Have you seen those?
I haven't.
Okay, I think that they're on there, and I may be mistaken. At least one of them, it's kind of like a fireside chat type thing from the old BBC footage. But
does he show up on a stage and say, hello?
Hello. No, but he appears like this.
I was a Christian too.
No, it kind of reminds me of in Acts where Paul is at the Pantheon. That's one of my favorite stories, because maybe everyone out there disagrees with me, but I have always kind of taken it as this is the way that we should be spreading our faith, because Paul's walking around like, oh, that's an he's looking at all these different gods, and he's like, oh, that's I know about Zeus. Yeah, I never heard about Zeus. That's okay. Oh yeah, I've heard about Athena. Yeah. And then he goes and there's that god the podium is empty and it's like the unknown god, And Paul's like, what's this? And they're like, well, we don't know what god we're not worshiping. And he goes, I know what god you're not worshiping. And then he talks to him about that. And I kind of felt like that was like that a little bit for Lewis, because he was comparing like the teaching of Jesus to Buddha and I think some Islam. Is that right? Yeah. So I kind of liked how he was open-minded, but then also recognized, like, I do believe in Christianity. So
yeah, he definitely makes that pretty clear, that I admit I have my Christian view and belief, but that when I'm speaking about the Tao, I don't mean to be Buddhist and I don't mean to only be Christian, that this applies to everybody because we're getting at fundamental morality.
Yeah.
And the thing starts off as a critique of Gaius and what's the other guy's name?
Gave him
we need to find it. What's his name? Gaius and is it Tertius?
Something like that.
Oh, why did I not write their names down? Titius, that's it. So this starts out as a critique, really a diatribe about him critiquing these two teachers that have submitted to him this grammar book. Gaius, he calls them Gaius and Titius, and says that, these guys wanted me to evaluate their book. And you know what? I will. It's horrible because, and you had warned me about that and said he spends so much time preaching against them. I had to stop at first because I thought, why? Why does this matter? Why are you getting so fired up about a school book? It's a textbook. Now, I say that. I'm a teacher. Of course I care what's printed in these textbooks. Of course I care of what's printed in these textbooks. But I also don't go home at night and I'm like, oh my God, they blah, blah. His argument really comes down to the way we characterize the world around us, our perspective of the world around us. Is it okay to look at a waterfall and say, that's beautiful, or that's pretty, as if one is correct.
That's sublime.
And one is not.
Wasn't that the one that
Right.
the person, yeah, that's sublime. Yeah.
When he brought up the sublime, I thought, oh, okay, well, I know that. I get sublime. And it brings us back to that there is a fundamental good and a fundamental wrong and that humanity all tends to be aware of. And you don't have to be Christian to know right from wrong. You don't have to be Buddhist. You don't have to be anything to know right from wrong. That there are that there are moral imperatives. There are days when right is right and wrong is wrong. Sure, we exist where there's plenty of gray area in between, but right is right and wrong is wrong.
I did feel like there towards the end he was getting into kind of an argument against atheism where like kind of what you're talking about is we have a moral compass. Where did the moral compass come from? You know, like we're all we would all agree to these, like he had like certain scenarios and like you said, and he like we would all agree that this is like the, you know, this moral compass is coming. And I mean, he even gets into talk, like he gets fired up on Nietzsche there at one point, which, you know, Nietzsche is a huge atheist. And so I do think that, yeah, there was that. Also, I was looking through my notes and I was thinking about, he's got about like, what he kind of gets into nationalism and like what a good patriot looks like, because that was something that I noticed when he's getting into talking about the textbook guys. Like he says a good patriot is like well traveled and has good knowledge and things like that. I'll pull that quote up really quick. I've got Lewis is equating being patriotic to traveling the world and gaining knowledge of it. So basically being like a good representative of your country.
Yeah,
is what he's getting into. Really, just I guess like you said, it's just kind of a gut check in some sense of, are you living, I guess, a morally correct way, and kind of C.S. Lewis's way of looking at that.
For the morally correct way, something that I want to clarify for me is, again, I had so much trouble with understanding, with grasping why this mattered up front. That I get that there's a sublime, that there are, when we say sublime, that there are moments when you can feel in equal measure this great and terrifying awe of something, but also recognize this fundamental beauty. Imagine standing at the base of an F5 tornado that's ripping through a neighborhood, and you're spellbound by seeing this thing that is just death incarnate, and yet it's beautiful watching this. That there are these moments in life. Well, you don't stand there and say, boy, that sure is pretty, or that's bad. Like, you know, you're missing the greater concept behind it. So we should be able to distinguish that there are feelings that we attach to these things, and that those feelings connect back to moral fundamental judgments of right and wrong. I was like, okay, it's about feelings. What about our feelings? Because there are plenty of people who want to say, blank your feelings, right? Like, well, your feelings don't matter, whatever. We can just set those aside. You're just your feelings, whatever. No. I can feel my feelings, but I can also put those to the side and deal with whatever. Like, I should be able to do that. But where do those feelings come from? And that's the tangent that he leads you down here. That what are we saying? That these feelings come from some moral good, some moral wrong? Yes, that's his idea, that we, whether you've been raised in certain institutions or churches or whatever, we all connect to the right and the wrong, the good. And that the detractors from this would say, no, that's not true. There's no such thing as that it comes from instinct. Well, okay, where's this instinct come from?
Right.
Oh, well, it comes from the need to perpetuate a society. Okay, well, where's that come from? A selflessness? Where does that come from? It's like, I love the rhetorical asking of these questions back too. So even if he feels like at times he wins this argument, it still brings us back to, on a long enough timeline, people will find ways to abuse the control of these emotions and the destruction of these emotions. If you let these textbook writers inculcate a generation of upcoming thinkers to believe that we should, carve out these emotions, or to expect, well, I'm allowed to think that way, I'm allowed to feel that way, I'm allowed to do this, my viewpoint's just as valid as anybody else's. Sometimes that's true, sometimes that's not. Am I allowed to marry this person because we've grown up in the same town, whether I'm Montague or Capulet? Yes. Love is love is love. But what happens when that person says, well, I identify as a cat? Well, I identify as, now we're getting into some dangers. Just because I'm a 46-year-old man does not say, well, I identify as an 8-year-old. I'm allowed to. No. There are certain things that are wrong, fundamentally wrong. Pedophilia is fundamentally wrong, categorically wrong. And we cannot allow a generation of thinkers to be allowed to say, well, I'm okay with that. Because I'm okay with it, you have to be okay with it. You have to accept that. That's not true. There are certain dangers that we lead our following generations into. So from that perspective, I was like, okay, grammar matters. Okay, teaching of these textbooks, it absolutely matters.
Yeah. Well, how did you take it with him talking about, and you may have already kind of mentioned it, but he gets hung up on how they were saying about the two different word choices there.
Yeah.
I may have misread it. I was kind of taking it as he was kind of saying like, I don't know, maybe I think I may have misread that part, because I was kind of thought he was saying like, one is saying, they were saying like there's only one right way to describe this, and Lewis was kind of saying that's not necessarily the case, right?
Right, correct. You were right.
Yeah.
That the parable is that the person standing there looking at the waterfall, two people standing there looking at it, one says, that's pretty, and the other one says, that's beautiful. Well, is one right, is one wrong? Personally, I think one's just bad right. You can't say that.
Right.
But the distinction comes down to, I look at this thing and I recognize that it has an inherent beauty all of its own that does not come from me, that exists from some foundational moral imperative, that it is beauty. Beauty comes from the Tao, whether that's God, fate, universe, whatever, that Tao imbues this with a beauty. The other one says, I feel like that makes me feel beautiful, or I feel that there is a beauty in that. And it has it because I say it has it. And that's wrong, that we do not feel these things. And he also brings it to a better parallel, I think. If we know how you are with eating. We know how you like certain things, but you don't like a whole lot of things,
true.
right?
Yeah.
What's something you hate to eat?
Corn.
Corn. Oh my gosh.
My least favorite food.
But I love corn.
But I love popcorn.
Okay. But I love corn on the cob.
Oh.
I love corn on the cob. I love cream corn. I love all of it. I love corn.
It's got the juice.
Corn. I would sing the song. So if I had a bowl of corn in front of me, steamy hot with butter, salt and pepper on top, boy, I'm ready for summer. And if I say, boy, this is delicious, your person would say, no, that makes me sick, or no, that is poisonous. No, it's not poisonous just because you don't like it. It's not to be rejected just because you don't like it. There are things that, you know what, it is a nutritious meal. You may not enjoy the taste of it, but you don't get to be your own select judge of whether things have merit or not. Because there are things that have an inherent beauty to them. There are things that have an inherent good to them.
You are not the main character.
You are not the main character.
Just because I say corn is not good does not mean everyone else thinks that.
That's true. That's true.
That is true.
You are not the one determiner of everything.
It seems like you enjoyed this book, Crockett.
So It was a slog to have to get through, and it's a skinny book.
It is. It's like the edition that I read, it was like 90 pages.
It was a skinny book, but it was. You remember how dense Devil in the White City felt?
Yeah.
And I had to feel like, I got to take a break after every chapter.
Yeah.
About every couple of pages, I had to take a break because I was just like, what? He's giving me some things I got to chew on. And there was even one part where I had to break down his. I'm scrolling literally through billions of things I wrote here, where I had to write down through lecture 3, break it down. What is he saying about these conditioners and everything? And when I took it step by step like that and did my own annotations, I was like, okay, I get that. I get that. I get that. But yeah, it has a lot of meaning to it.
Yeah.
I also think that this is a really good cautionary tale for the society we inhabit today and the one that is yet to come. But I also feel like maybe C.S. Lewis is a little bit pessimistic about it. And having read this, Jason Crockett feels a little bit pessimistic about it too. Because while I'm reading it and I'm like, yeah, of course, right? People are not paying attention. They're letting themselves be directed like sheep. Or if you're just going to, what did Aaron Tippin sing? If you're not going to stand for something.
Stand for something or you'll fall for anything.
You'll fall for anything, right? The wise poetic words of Aaron Tippin. Aaron Tippin and C.S. Lewis, right?
I thought you were going to say kiss this. He doesn't mean on his rosy red lips.
The real literary high-minded work of Aaron Tippin.
You got to get the before he cheats out of there and get the kiss this.
That's what I'm going to change out for next semester. But yeah, when I got through lecture number 3, I started thinking, oh man, this is exactly what society needs to hear. But part of me feels like it's a little bit too late for society to hear it. Surely I can't be that pessimistic. Surely there are people like me who benefited from reading this. So aren't there younger generations that need to? But if we're already in the hands of these conditioners who have learned how to shape a humanity and to separate their thoughts from the appreciation for a moral or imperative beauty from something that they think that they can determine themselves, aren't we already in the hands of these conditioners then who are shaping us? And can you break that? Mm-hmm. It made me feel like O'Brien and Winston in 1984, and how Winston on the one hand is like, well, the future, the rebellion lies in the proles. They can do it. And O'Brien's telling them, it's too late. They're never going to rebel. We control what they watch and eat. They're not going to do that.
I think too, it's kind of a rejection of education. He kind of gets on in a sense. Did you feel like that? Kind of like a
rejection of certain paths of education. Yeah. Of a trendy kind of education. Yeah.
C.S. Lewis's writing, you were talking about how dense it was. It reminded me at this time of reading through it of when I read Ethics by Dietrich Bonhoeffer, to where it was so elevated that I had to sit outside and read it out loud. So I could, have you ever had to do that before?
Yes.
Yeah. And so I was getting to that point with C.S. Lewis. What did you think about his writing / speaking?
Oh yeah. I frequently found myself reading it out loud. Now I have my reading chair in the corner and my family's back and forth through the house. So I was constantly doing it. Actually, I lie. I was constantly doing it like this. I don't know why. But if I read it like I thought C.S. Lewis would say it, it made more sense to me. Mm-hmm. But yeah, constantly read it out loud.
Yeah. Really intelligent. I don't know. We talked about this in my class where we were reading Night and Man's Search for Meaning. And one thing we just kept talking about with Viktor Frankl was you can tell that there's a deep thinker. Yeah. Not that Elie Wiesel is not. But you could tell that there is just like an elevated mind behind that.
Yeah.
Do you have any favorite quotes that you want to talk about? Because I know I've got a few that I had written down.
I have a billion that are in here. I have a billion that are in here. I really like how he teaches through parable, and he gives you the example of the Roman father teaching his son that it is noble to die for your country. And like, where does that come from? And immediately I latched onto it because I thought, well, that's America. how many Americans would be like, yeah, of course it's noble to die for your country. Of course it is. Where does such a value come from? And I do still think a lot of Americans would say from God or whatever. And because of the current climate and everything that we live in, I know that there's a lot of people who would detract from that and say, no, it's not noble to die for your country for an unjust cause or for an illegal war. But those conditioners still come in there. I shouldn't say conditioner because that's the bad guy. Those modifiers come in there of illegal war, unjust war, and all of that. Where does that come from? That's still this moral direction that Americans believe war in some cases is a just thing, and to sacrifice yourself for your country is a just thing. And I thought that's a pretty good concept to frame it. I know he's not talking to Americans explicitly, but that would get Americans.
One thing, I had it when you were here. He says one of the ones I've written down that kind of talks about what you were talking about. He says, by starving the sensibility of our pupils, we only make them easier prey.
Yes,
to the propagandist when he comes. I guess that's what I was talking about, was like this rejection of education in a sense of, like you and I talk about all the time, we want our students to think for themselves. We're not telling them how to think. And Lewis is saying, if you starve them of that ability to free think, when the propagandist rolls around, he's going to devour them.
Well, he also explicitly warns against the people who are trying to, indoctrinate your students to believe this certain way, that those are the conditioners that we have to be guarding against. On page 11, he says, for one pupil who needs to be guarded from a weak excess of sensibility, there are three that need to be awakened from the slumber of cold vulgarity.
I have that one too.
The task of the modern educator is not to cut down jungles, but to irrigate deserts. Boy, that's what we're doing on every day, bucket after bucket.
I had those down too. Some of those quotes, I felt like we were talking to one of our people in some sense.
Yes.
We got some of those. Yeah. I'm just trying to look through these really quick.
Until quite modern times, all teachers, and even all men, believed the universe to be such that certain emotional reactions on our part could be either congruous or incongruous to it. Believed, in fact, that objects did not merely receive, but could merit our approval or disapproval, our reverence or our contempt. That we always used to agree that there are some things that are right and there are some things that are wrong.
That goes into people wearing like pajamas and stuff like that, right? Like there is a way to dress and a way. I mean, I know I'm going to sound like an old man here, but that just bothers. I've told my wife that, like, I feel like one of the downfalls of society is when people started wearing onesies everywhere. Like they make adult onesies you can buy at Walmart. Why is that? Why is that an okay thing?
Yeah.
I was looking at this picture from the Cardinals game the other night, and the right field second deck, which this kind of happened in college football, was just jam-packed with dudes with their shirts off. I mean, it was just a big thing of flesh. And part of me thinks that that's funny because it's kind of like dudes being dudes, right? But then I think for me with that, it was striking because there's so many of those famous photos of baseball games where it's just nothing but hats, like the little, what kind of hats would you call those? I don't know. I'm not a hat guy, but it's like a boiler hat type thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's just like full of those, and they're all wearing their like suits and ties. And I get that times change too, but I was just thinking I mean, at one time this would have been like you're a savage up there, and like I said, I'm not detracting from anyone, I guess, trying to have fun. It was harmless, but it makes me think about this stuff too. Like you were saying, like
look at the grandparents we're going to have coming up. They're going to be wearing their T-shirts and their everything. But our grandparents were different. Yeah.
That's something that Mary Beth and I have talked about, especially when you and I too talk about how the generation of mountain people and things like that. And Mary Beth was we were talking about like stereotypical old man attire where it's like the khaki pants, the khaki slacks with the button up shirt,
Yeah.
I just don't know if that old man's going to be there.
I know.
I'm kind of promising myself I'm going to turn into that old man.
Well, I think that there is hope. I will say that as we get older, we get more conservative.
Yeah.
I mean, look at me. You
said you just voted. You're going to vote for Trump this next time.
That's a lie. I'm not that. I'm not an idiot. But I do wear polos and khakis and stuff like that. And it's like, Jason, come on, it's a jean day tomorrow. Yeah, I might wear my khakis or something. Like, come on. Now I have plenty of informal wear and everything, but I don't know. I don't know that I'm going to be what my grandpa wore, but still, I don't know.
Yeah.
If you're going out to town, I feel like I need to put on some clothes.
Yeah. Well, it's like I tell my kids, like, there's a way I expect you to carry yourself. There's a way that we should carry ourselves. And I guess that's kind of what, in a way where he's talking about, like, some things have inherent beauty and some things don't. And we have the ability to recognize, like, yes, this is beautiful, or yes, this is not. Like the vulgarity of some of these bumper stickers I see.
Oh,
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, what is going on?
I know that we have freedom of speech, and I fight for that. And
Absolutely.
Great. I still don't want to put the F word all over my car.
There's a difference between freedom of speech and decency.
Yeah. But where does this decency come from?
Well, here we go.
It comes from some moral. It comes from the Tao, right?
It comes from the Tao. It would make me say the Holy Spirit.
Right.
Which is convicting me because I know my language sometimes can be. So I apologize.
There was a great quote here, too. The difference between the old and the new education will be an important one, where the old initiated, the new merely conditions. And that stopped me because it reminds me of books that I've read before about, like, how men should help raise up young men. So I've got 2 boys, and you think about, how are you being a good dad? It's not just, and even to my daughter, it's not just you keep the kid fed, you keep them entertained, you buy them the things. That there are, as good a dad as I try to be for my daughter, there are things that her mom can do for her to initiate her into the world of women.
Yeah.
That I don't have the key to that.
Right.
And that doesn't slam anybody who was raised by a single parent or anything. It's just, I know that I am not as in on some things. And also raising a boy. How do I be a so-called good man to raise my boy among men? There's some initiation that goes into that, right? That maybe I only have an inside too. And his mom can do a great job raising him, but I don't know. Maybe I can help bridge some of that gap. The old education initiated, but the new one merely conditions. Whereas the old dealt with its pupil as grown birds that deal with young birds when they teach them to fly. The new education deals with them more as the poultry keeper deals with young birds, making them, thus or that for their purposes, of which the birds know nothing in a world that was that know nothing. So it's like, I really liked that way of metaphorizing it too, that we are like the old birds raising up these boys and girls. Hey, I know how to fly. I know the mistakes that I've made. Here's how you need to follow through with that. But education, the new education, is just preparing you as lambs for the slaughter. It's just preparing you to be a factory product to be consumed. We call you consumers, but these products that we make available to you sometimes consume you. You are the consumed. How many of our industries rely upon you as the product? We always say if a product is free, that there's no charge to it. Surprise, you are the product, right?
Yeah.
Oh, golly, it makes me think, I'm not going to get off on a tangent about AI, but it makes me think about AI. When so often you have these people in power who are, like, in this current season, giving graduation speeches.
Oh, I saw these, yeah.
So many of them that they'll bring up AI, and the college crowd starts to boo them.
Yeah.
And the speakers are like, if you let me finish, if you don't like, this, that's okay. AI will take care of you here. Boo! And you're offering this AI that's a free tool, but it's so ubiquitous. It's jam-packed, forced into Microsoft, email, everything, in my car, everything. When it stops being free, I will have already been so needed to it that I become addicted to it. I can't do without it. Yeah, that I have lost my faculties to do whatever. Well, it's no longer free. I have to have it. I've become, it has become necessary to me. What the heck, man? But that's what he wrote this when, and that's what we're doing now.
Yeah.
That we engineer these data centers. We engineer this. When he talks about the conditioners, it makes me think of people like Peter Thiel, who are behind Palantir, these guys who are behind all of these insidious software companies to collect data on you, and they don't want to be the ones sitting in power. True power hides in the shadows and directs from there. They want to be the people out here who make all of the decisions and condition you. I'm really starting to sound like a tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist. But they want to be the ones that condition you, the consumer, to buy these things, to become so needful of it, that then you become the creatures that they have indoctrinated you to be, that they have wanted you to be. You become the fatted cow. You become the sheep that just follow along and say 4 legs good, 2 legs bad.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Which we've got to talk about that soon. Yeah, I think kind of some of the things you're talking about is like, oh, you don't want this. You're going to love it. Trust me. And you're going to get it anyways. So you have no choice in that. Also, too, that kind of reminds me of, this is going to be a typical, I guess like typical story, but it's like the teaching a man to fish or basically taking him to the market and how to buy a fish. Well, what if the fish is not there? What if what if our food is not there?
Yeah.
Well, then what do we do?
Right.
I mean, I myself would be in some serious, if this was like a real scenario,
right?
I needed fish. I can't gut a fish.
Right.
I don't know how to do that. My dad's tried to teach me, but it grosses me out.
I think you'd figure it out.
You think I would?
I think you'd figure it out. And that leads me directly into the next thing, which came from his third lecture, that morality and virtue by themselves are not enough. Drew Haston knows the moral, virtuous things. He embraces the Tao. He sees beauty in his children and in the world and his work and his relationships with others. You embrace the Tao. Great. But if we recognize, society is warping things. Society is risking taking this away. They're trying to do this with the upcoming generations. They just want to put kids on Chromebooks, or they just want to give them AI chatbots. If we recognize, I don't know, there's a problem here, and we don't do anything about it, then we're just as complicit.
Yeah.
That recognizing morality and virtue exist and need to be heeded is not enough. We must take action. We have to be vigilant and act.
Well, that goes into kind of sticking with the AI thing, the way that, like you'd say, that is what, I know that our state is allegedly trying to pass a Chromebook law where we can't use those anymore.
Yeah. But
also on the other hand, it's like you said, how much of the AI things are being put, how many kids are going homeschooled? Right. Our school right now is suffering from that.
This is what I'm saying.
Because of the budget, because we're losing students to homeschool because they can, I told you this, but I had a student with 4 days of school left drop to go to Penn Foster.
Yeah. I agree.
So we can sit in front of a Chromebook, click it, get done.
Yeah.
Or just not do it at all. But it's like you're saying, if I am being conditioned on this AI chatbot or this AI teacher, and that's something this is a conversation I had with my mother yesterday, that the AI is hallucinating. Like these things are not reliable still.
Right.
Just because you're watching AI generated Western stories, that doesn't mean that it's just going to be inherently wholesome.
Right.
That doesn't mean that it's going to not slip some things in there that maybe might be misleading or maybe might be bad for, we had like 9 kids over there. Like maybe it wouldn't be the best thing for our kids to hear. Do you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. But it's just so easily for some of these people to trust into that. Like, oh, well, it's AI. It's fine. It's fine. That's what I kept getting. It's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. Man, I don't know. It's just interesting.
Well, that leads me to another parallel. And again, this is not because one is right and all the others are wrong. There's a man in Putnam County running for election. He's running for the Democratic ticket. And Putnam County is obviously deep red. And he was mistreated at a county commission meeting because he wanted to approach and talk to some of the people. And they didn't want him to talk. They didn't want him to approach anything. So
the representatives, the elected officials.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, I mean, I'll just say it. That is what our state has turned into. Oh, you're a Democrat? You're not allowed to speak at this meeting any longer.
Correct. Yeah. They accused him of trying to bum rush the commissioners. And that he attacked the detectives that were there, the sheriff's deputies that were there. And on camera, it's just not true. Yeah. It's literally just not true. So he was wrongly jailed for it and finally released with barely anything. And by that, I mean hardly any sort of admission of wrongdoing. Mm-hmm. Well, he's running for election now. And in Putnam County, it hit the news that a local elected Republican official has been found guilty of some very unseedy, some very salacious, nasty child involvement things. Mm-hmm. But you're the party that says it's the Democrats that do it. You're the party that says it's the drag queens that come to the libraries. You're the ones that say, it's because these schools are trying to put litter boxes in the bathrooms. They're trying to corrupt your kids. Literally, you're the one doing this. Uh-huh. Long story, this man posted about that and said, when Putnam County wants to finally get together and change things, we can get together and change things. And the top comment was from somebody raging about, well, what do you Democrats do? All you want to do is take boys and turn them into girls and take girls and turn them into boys, and you're for it. You're not ever going to tell them no and blah, blah, blah. And you know what? He may be guilty of it and everything, but it's on both sides. And you just stop right there. He may be guilty of it, but
he's a good old boy. I know him.
That's C.S. Lewis warning us in Abolition of Man that morality and virtue are not necessarily enough to curb these actions. We have to, when we see it, call it out and take action against it. America knew that Hitler's regime was doing something to the Jews, and they would not accept refugees, right? They were not accepting them from Europe. Troy Smith told us that they were having to go into Cuba and come up through, and even then they cut them off. We knew that they were doing something, even if the public at large didn't know all the details. We knew. America today similarly shocks me because we know what ICE agents are by hordes going through these communities and doing. We know what our elected officials are doing. They hire these young tech guys to pilfer and ransack data to eliminate fraud. But they're not eliminating fraud. They're just cutting funding left and right and then completely embezzling money. The Supreme Court effectively gutted the Voting Rights Act. Mm-hmm. Tennessee's gerrymandering, the last little bit of black representation out of the state. We see these things happening. Like we have to be able to recognize this, call it out, and take action on it. And it can't just be a few of us. Mm-hmm. It can't just be a few of us who say, well, I'm not brave enough to say it. Get brave. Because the conditioners, they are warping a society. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about family values, but you're not standing up for family values. You're allowing these kids to be shuffled off to whatever other alternative, we'll control their education. Why? What are you so afraid of with public education? Because you're indoctrinating. Am I the one doing the indoctrinating? I'm not doing the indoctrinating. It's always the folks who say that are doing the indoctrinating. Mm-hmm. It always is.
Yeah. It's also, too, how we're blanketing, misdeeds through our faith.
Yes.
When we who are truly faithful know it's not true and it's not right. I think someone I talked to said something really good. We were talking about some of these anti-vax people who were saying it's against my religion, and that's what I told them. Bring me the Bible verse. I've not read one yet that says that, and I mean, I feel like I have read a lot from. I'm not trying to be boastful, but like I feel like I would know if that verse exists, right? And so bring it to me. Let me see it, because you can't. There's not one. There's not one going to be there. And they said, well, it's really not their religion, is it? It's a lifestyle. That's it, right? Your theology is republicanism. It's your theology is this lifestyle. It's not what you're truly following, and that's what that's getting into.
So again, not to be tinfoil hat conspiracy theorist, but as somebody who grew up in the 90s and witnessed, America veering to the right, the sudden popularity, the trendiness of being the radical right or the hardline right, the Rush Limbaugh right, the Newt Gingrich right, that you are wanting to fight against so-called corruption in government. And you're wanting to call out Bill Clinton. You're wanting to call out his infidelities with Monica Lewinsky and everything. Okay, that's fine. But you don't call it out with everything else. Oh, well, let's call out Hillary Clinton. Why? What is so evil about Hillary Clinton? And I'm not a Hillary Clinton apologist. I'm just saying, what's so evil? Is it that she's a woman who had the audacity to follow her own career and her own path to power? Because we don't call out Rush Limbaugh. As we don't call out Newt Gingrich, who also had infidelities. We don't call out any of these other people. We don't call out any of these other people that are so-called family values. We elect them. When they're convicted felons, we elect them. Why should we be shocked at the direction this nation is going, when over and over we have been trained up this way for the last 30 years? It has been a plan to substitute your religious views or to transpose them with these nationalist, political values. To accept, well, I love God and country means I have to stand on one side of the voting line.
Right.
Wrong. Yeah. Wrong. But that's what's been trained up. I can distinctly remember I had a teacher in high school who was former military vet. I adored the guy, and he was like, Jason, who would you vote for in this upcoming election? I'm not even going to give you names. I'm just going to give you a couple of examples. Would you vote for a guy who dodges the draft? Would you vote for a guy who smokes marijuana? Would you vote for a guy who has done this and that and this and that? And I was like, ew, no, I wouldn't. He's like, well, that's Bill Clinton. Why would you vote for him? And then looking back on it, it's like, oh my gosh, that's so reductive, whatever. But nowadays, if I tried pulling that, which candidate is the draft dodger? Which candidate is the one who has cheated on women and done all of these awful, horrendous, atrocious things? And yet, his base depicts him in AI art as Jesus Christ. And as long as he stands on a churchyard holding a Bible upside down that he himself has printed to aggrandize money from, then we're going to say, well, there's family values. There's my Jesus. There's my morality.
That's what I was saying. Also, you're printing a Bible with the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence mean a ton to me.
Right.
But it has no place to be in my Bible. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, there's no place. That's not what my faith is based off of. Right. And that's just insane to me that there wasn't even really anything, like any eyes batted at that.
Oh, quite the opposite, that so many people celebrated it. I had to unfollow so many people, and I just had to unfollow and unfriend so many people who, after the first, after the shooting at the campaign rally that summer, who were like, yeah, God and truth will win out. God and truth will win out. And I'm just thinking, this is, I'm not in favor of any act of violence like this. I'm just saying that guy does not represent God and truth. No matter what is currently happening, that doesn't represent God and truth. Or after the election results of, yes, praise Jesus, praise Jesus. Praise Jesus? You're posting a picture of Trump and saying, praise Jesus? Praise Jesus. That is not Jesus. And Jesus's teachings are not supported by that man's life and action. You will know them by the fruits of their spirit. You will know them by the words and deeds and fruits of their spirit.
Or even having to explain to your daughter why there are so many billboards on the road that have a picture of Jesus and underneath it says Trump.
And I still don't vote from that car lot. I still don't buy from that car lot. I do not. There's one on 111, had a big one with the picture of the hand up and the flag behind him and said, "We support the President Trump. We'll never buy a car from you. Don't care. I found good deals down there. Pass them up every time. Not going to buy from you." Maybe that doesn't affect anything, but I will out loud say I am not buying from you.
So if you're listening out there, the NAP has detected us and you want to come and find us.
They knew where I lived and worked years ago. You were talking about us wearing pajama pants and stuff to Walmart now and not dressing like our grandparents. In a way, though, Lewis does admit that it's not necessarily right that one generation should always have power over the succeeding generation in that way, because we do have to reinvent ourselves. We do have to, do the dead have the right to dictate life to the living, right?
Sure.
I'm going to get that tattooed. That's a good question.
Yeah.
Because, Thomas Jefferson and our founding forefathers, they also expected that, the Declaration of Independence was a starter, that the Constitution was going to be a living document. They'll rewrite it. They'll redo it. They'll come up with something better in 30 years. And we're not. We've added to it, but the Constitution is almost the most supreme sacred document to our government. We don't reinvent that. And then so often we point back to, well, what would our forefathers think?
Yeah.
Well, what would they think? In a way, who cares?
Yeah.
Because I get to live by this. Everybody, whatever your political and religious beliefs are, that's great. These are mine. I don't care. Whatever. Atticus came home from a midweek church group the other night, and I was like, "What'd y'all learn about?" And he's like, "Oh, we talked about the law. We talked about the law, and the law is the Old Testament law, and the law of this and that, and breaking the law and everything." I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, what about the law? What'd you learn?" And he said, "Well, that they were pretty strict and they were pretty tough. You could get pretty hardcore punished. There could be a lot of serious punishments. You could get killed for this and killed for that." And I was like, "So what do you think about that?" "Well, I guess you just got to be good." And I was like, no. Because let's look at some of those Old Testament laws. What if I plant, these two different crops side by side, as it tells me I shouldn't here? What should happen to me? And he's like, I guess you deserve to be punished. I said, really? What about you wearing garments of two different threads right there, my boy? What about you touching the skin of a pig 7 times a day? What about you? What about my brother who works on a Sunday? What about that? What about you who backtalked me from the back porch this one time? Like you're a rebellious child. What should be happening? Well, I guess I deserve punishment. You don't really think that. Like you're afraid. What do you think? Well, I guess some laws, they just change over time. I said, that's right. Some laws change. And the laws of Leviticus, for all I know, may have been the supreme thinking of society at the time. But by a modern standard, a lot of those laws just don't hold up. And we can't be beholden to whatever those laws say. We have to be beholden to what?
The Tao.
There it is. There it is. That there are moral imperatives. There are rights and wrongs. And planting two different crops side by side, that's not necessarily it. So anyway.
Yeah.
Long tangent.
Try not to get into theological here. Because, like the
how do you escape it with this? How do you escape it?
The Levitical stuff, was created so that the Israelites would be set apart, right? We're going to be a holy people. This is God's people.
Okay.
But those laws did change.
Right.
When Jesus comes.
Right.
The laws do change.
Right.
So, yeah.
But the inherent right and wrong of a thing is still something that you can infer across cultures. I don't have to be an Israelite living several thousand years ago to know right from wrong.
I think that's what he's getting into with the Tao, right? Yes. Is like we are different, but we all have inside of us this moral compass, this
except
morality.
for the conditioners.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
The conditioners seek to live outside the Tao. And really that bothered me because you're cutting your humanity out of you. If humanity is something that's in tune, that we're on that wavelength of the Tao, we get right and wrong, but you want to live outside that? What kind of creature are you that you don't even want to be human? You don't even want to be a created. You want to be the conditioner. The conditioners who wield control over humanity and its changes exist outside the Tao, rejecting values in favor of whims, doing things not because they ought to, but because they can and want to. And that's that's Jurassic Park. That's the Terminator. That's Frankenstein. That's Blade Runner. That's the corporation. That's Weyland Yutani in the Alien franchise. That's all of these things. How many times do we have to warn ourselves about it? But then we just elect the people that Peter Thiel says, hey, that's a family values guy. You should elect him.
How about this one? The last men, far from being the heirs of power, will be of all men subjects to the dead hand of the great planners and conditioners, and will themselves exercise least power upon the future.
Yes, that's right.
That kind of goes into what you were saying.
Yes. The original assumption I had about the title, I thought it meant like setting free of man. That's what I originally, because I didn't read the title right. But abolition is like the abolishment. The abolishment of man? And oh God, that bothered me. When I got to the end of lecture 3, he says that is the abolition of man. It's obsolescence. The obsolescence of our connection to the Tao. Man is severing himself from the essential right and wrong, from God, from morality, from values. That you're just cutting yourself away from what makes us human.
It's a crazy world.
Why would you do that?
But no kind of factual observation and no appeal to instinct will give him ground for this option. Once more, he is deriving it from the Tao. A duty to our own kin, because they are our own kin, is a part of traditional morality. But side by side with it in the Tao and limiting it lie the inflexible demands of justice and the rule that in the long run, all men are our brothers. Whence comes the innovator's authority to pick and choose?
Right. I just know that there are listeners somewhere out there, or that there are conditioners out there, conditioner wannabes that are out there that are like, come on, that's not true, that I don't have to believe in the Tao or the virtues or whatever. I can still be a good person. Lewis says that we can't assume the rejection of the Tao would strip away all benevolent impulses. He does say that. But man, isn't it kind of like a time-tested true thing that the people who reject that, it just leads to corruption? I mean, I give you the one ring. I don't need value. I can have the one ring. I won't be. No, you're going to turn into Gollum every single time. It's in Lord of the Flies. It's in Macbeth. Every time we sever ourselves from these values, where does it lead? But into turning into savagery, violence.
Well, what about the stand?
The stand. It's the same thing. You're either going to be on this side or you're not.
We've asked so many times, what are the differences between the people going to Las Vegas and the people going to Boulder?
Yes.
Because the ones in Las Vegas are trying to live outside the Tao.
That's right. That's exactly what it is.
That's what they're doing.
That's true.
They're wanting to be conditioners.
And the conditioners, Lewis says the conditioners will hate the conditioned. And the people who go to Vegas hate the people in the free zone.
Yeah.
They absolutely hate them.
That quote that I shared reminded me kind of, well, you were talking about how our only predominantly black city in our state was severed in thirds to silence the black vote. And, you know, that's what he's saying is like, all men are our brothers. Who gave you authority to pick and choose?
Right.
That kind of reminded me of some of the things that I've been seeing going on with some of, not just in our state, but in others too.
The conditioners will inherently hate the condition.
Yeah. Who gives you the authority for that?
That's over and over and over again. It always happens that way. You give people the power and they hate this side. It's always an us versus them, that you despise these so-called creatures that are under your control. Like, what are you doing cutting people out of their right to vote? Like, what are you doing cutting them out of representation? That's what made America America. We rebelled against taxation with no representation. And what are you doing? You're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Have you ever read H.G. Wells' The Time Machine?
No.
I love The Time Machine. And the guy gets stuck going into the far, far, far flung future. And after Earth has basically annihilated itself and regrows, he finds himself in the ruins of a city. And when he goes to explore, he finds these beautiful 20-something-year-olds who are all blonde and fair and throwing balls here and there, and they go eat. And then whenever the bell rings, they all turn into like zombies and just walk away. They're called the Eloi. They're like the perfect creatures. They are so beautiful. They don't have sickness or disease. They are young, but they're controlled by the Morlocks. The Morlocks were originally people who lived under Earth to escape the nuclear fallout, and they just evolved into the controllers, the conditioners, who have trained the Eloi to be like cattle for them. The Morlocks hate the Eloi, and the conditioners always hate the conditioned. It's always going to be true. It's just like Jeff Bezos and his Amazon employees. He hates the Amazon employees.
Well, it kind of reminds me of some things I've been reading about some of the institutionalized racism, where it kind of originated from. And we've talked to Troy about this a little bit too, of how the poor white people and the blacks were starting to get together.
Right.
And they were saying, hey, wait a minute. We're both not being treated fairly. Like we're both not being treated. This class of people, they're not treating us correctly.
Yeah.
And then that's when they were kind of like giving him the poor whites the ability to go and find the runaway slaves and the ability to punish them and things like that, because they wanted them to feel just a step above, right? But still, that rich white class hated that poor white trash, That goes into some of the things that are going on today.
Yeah.
Right? This rich political class that we're starting to vote in, they don't like you.
No.
They like your vote.
And there's so
like your
few
vote.
of them. There's so few of them,
Right.
and so many of the rest of us. I saw an infographic the other day that looked at the wealthiest people in America, and it excluded the top, single-digit percent of the wealthiest Americans. And it was this huge decline from like the 4% wealthiest all the way down, huge steep decline. Then they added like the 1% to 2% wealthiest. The rest of the chart couldn't even view it. They just so far beyond outclassed the wealth of the others, you don't even register. You don't register to them. You are nothing to them because they are the conditioners. I do appreciate, I don't want to be bad-mouthing science and innovation and technology. I am not that guy. C.S. Lewis does say that science is not necessarily a bad thing. It's not the science that's the bad thing. And he does say that science and magic both attempted to assert man's control and reality over an unexplainable universe. So science and magic kind of go hand in hand there. I appreciate it. It's the man who wants to live outside the Tao that's the problem. And it's the controllers who want to just avoid, to excise themselves from all of this, just to exert control. I guess there's a little bit of a silver lining. I don't know that we should call it a silver lining, but I guess there's a silver lining, because he does say that when man achieves victory over nature, it really means that billions of people are going to be subjected to the will of an irrational few. But a victory over nature actually strengthens nature by reducing its victor to what nature already dictated. Man will become what his nature guided him to become. We have to be better. We cannot afford to be sheep. We cannot afford to be sheep. Yeah. And it's real easy to see something on the internet and just let your whims and your emotions take you away with it. It's real easy to see something on that brain rot Fox News that just suddenly runs away with whatever. But we have to know them by their fruits. We have to know that there are really bad people who are trying to pass themselves off as God's chosen. And no, I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Amen to that. If you had, I guess, one takeaway to pass on from the abolition of man, what would that be?
Exactly that we have to be vigilant about those who seek to control us, and that you got to call liars out. You got to call them out. It's really difficult. You don't have to be rude about it, but it's really difficult, I guess, to talk truth to people's faces. And even if it's something as seemingly innocuous as a grammar textbook, if you recognize, dude, this is taking us down the wrong path, you really got to speak up about it. Mm-hmm. You also got to be introspective and judge, wait, am I the controlled? Am I trying to control something? Like, what is this? I have family members who work for Penn Foster. I have family members who work for these homeschooling institutions. And it's difficult because it's like, man, your work is directly undermining what I see as the great work, that we are out here trying to bring a free public education that all students, regardless of color, gender, whatever, can benefit from. Isn't that a moral imperative? Isn't that a great good? And yet you're undermining this. Why are you doing that? Where does this whole so that they can self-determine what their education is? Why are you trying to cut yourself away from the great good? You say it's for a better good over here. What do you think that you're hiding from over here? What do you think that you're serving over here? Choice. They have plenty of choices over here. Why can we not fix public education? Why can't that be the thing? And we need to call out where the conditioners are trying to condition others. That would be my big take.
Yeah. I think for me, one thing that I would want to share, this would not be my main takeaway, but you have so well put a lot of the things that are in this book. I think that I would say that C.S. Lewis is a good example of deep thinking Christians.
Yes.
And I think that we so badly need that today. And I mentioned C.S. Lewis in my class the other night because I was saying how, man, I love Jesus, obviously, and I do love being a Baptist, but I said, man, it's easy for my Baptist friends to quote C.S. Lewis left and right. But if they actually read C.S. Lewis, they might find out that they don't really see eye to eye with him. Right. Do you know what I'm saying? And I just think that, Lewis and Bonhoeffer, and there's so many more that I could go through that will fail to mention, but I don't know. We just need that deep thinking, faithful man. And, oh man, we're starving for that.
We are absolutely starving.
Yeah.
You and I have talked about this like 3 or 4 times in the last few weeks. Like, my point is, why are we not winning the fight on these things? Yeah. Why is our side, whoever you are, why are we not winning the family values fight?
Right.
Why are we not saying, let's put America to work? Let's value that work is a good thing. And nobody's trying to cut that out. Why aren't we fighting for work, for education, for health? Like, why aren't we fighting for these good things? I really want, I have a friend, he used to be my best friend in high school. And then, of course, we got separated and I haven't seen him in years and years. But I texted him the other day and I was asking him about Abolition of Man because I figured that he would know about this. So I really want him to listen to this because Jason Crockett might have a surface level reading of the book. I may be missing some bigger things. But I asked him about it. And I said that I think C.S. Lewis would be spinning like a dynamo in his grave if he knew about the world as it exists today. And he said it's been probably 25 years since he's read Abolition of Man. I remember a friend in law school telling me about it, and I ultimately just gave him Raymond Smullyan's The Tao is Silent, which has always stuck in my mind as a better book, and it's a lot funnier too. So I don't know. I want him to listen to this, but I also think we need to look at The Tao is Silent and then compare.
Which may be the issue with today, right, is the Tao is silent.
Yeah.
The people following the Tao have been silent too long.
They sure have.
Yeah.
Even the ones that are like, we can't be silent about our faith. I don't know that you're being silent about your faith. faith, you're being silent about the real faith that you're missing.
The lifestyle.
The Tao.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're being awfully loud about other things.
Yeah.
You're not
Yeah.
being you're not being loud about the things that you should be loud about.
It's just, I'm not going to get into that. But it really can go both ways. I do want to say that, right? You can get wrapped up politically.
He never gives a single side to the conditioners.
You can get wrapped up politically either way.
Yes.
I think it's easy for us right now to point to what we're going through because I think it's so relatable.
Yes.
That would just be my challenge, I guess, is like check your theology, and like seriously, like check your theology. And is your theology the Bible, or is your theology a political leaning? Because I would argue right now that's the political. Like I said, I got distracted here. Can't whisper into the mic. I would argue that might be what we're following instead of, and like I said, they've done such a good job of masking that as faith that, I mean, how many pictures do you see of people holding their Bible and their gun? I mean, I got told, when someone asked me one time who did I vote for, and I said President Obama, and I got told, well, you better be ready to go to hell for voting for Democrats. So.
Well, these same friends would also share pictures of these so-called Middle Eastern terrorists who are posing for pictures with the Quran in one hand and a Kalashnikov rifle in the other. And they're like, look at these terrorists.
The barbarians.
But you're the same one, Bobby Lee, posting in your backyard a picture of you in your MAGA cap with your Bible in one hand and your rifle in the other. You're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I totally get Brutus. I totally get Brutus. Because it's like you're just standing here for the past 30 years shouting like, does nobody else see this? Does nobody else have a problem with it? But society around me is like, come on, Brutus. Come on, Jason. Come on. You need to be a better Christian, Jason. Okay.
5 stars. What would you give it?
The book itself is absolutely a 5-star. The reading of it is like a 2 or a 3.
Yeah.
I had difficulty reading.
I think I gave it a 4 stars because there were times it was so elevated that it was confusing. But sitting down with someone and being able to talk through that and hear other people's thinking behind it has made me feel like it is a 5-star read.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely one that you need to discuss.
Yes.
I think and the good thing about it is your friend was talking about how he hadn't read it in 25 years or whatever. And you were talking about how I just have like a surface level thing. I think that's the beauty of it. It is just 90 pages or 80 pages. Do you know what I'm saying? And it is something that you could probably go back and revisit yearly and find something new to that. So, yeah, I would give it a 5 stars.
I'm kind of ready, though, to yearly start finding less and less familiar about it, though. I'm kind of ready to be like, oh, we don't have anything like that going on in our life now.
Well, we won't be here next year because the NAP is gonna. After this one, they're gonna nag us.
I'm gonna be standing at my door with a cigarette in my mouth, and like, what took you so long? Been waiting.
What about out of 20?
My gut. Well, again, it's a different scale because in my head, the worth of it, the merit of it, it's like 17, 18, something like that. The reading of it, oh golly, no, it's tough. Mm-hmm. I'm almost down to like a 10 for the reading of it, maybe single digits for the reading of it.
It is a dense read.
It is a dense read.
Yeah.
But if you take it in snapshots, the same thing. We've talked about reading The Art of War, right? Sun Tzu. And Sun Tzu did not write this to be like, ooh, let me sit down for 2 hours and just read this. Mm-hmm. It's not a McFiction book. And there's plenty of times I just want to escape into reading.
Yeah.
This is not one you really escape into. This is one you study over.
Yeah.
This
I gotta go study
on
it.
You
Heck yes. How much did you pay at McKay's?
Ooh, I don't know. I overpay for everything at McKay's. $6.50. $6.50, I bet.
I paid $7 for the new copy.
Hey.
But at McKay's, C.S. Lewis's stuff is so overpriced there. It would be like $15.
Probably.
Bet, so.
Yeah. $6.50, $7. That's right.
Yeah.
That's the right zone.
Real quick, because it's time to dismiss.
Yeah.
I know that you probably would never bring this into the classroom. But do you think that it is something that needs to be taught?
To the gen ed classes, maybe. I could see doing a lesson over it where it's like we look at a small excerpt of it and just talk about why do we teach English classes? Like, why do we make you take English through 4 years of high school? Why do we care about the things that are actually being taught? We hear a lot of talk today, guys, about teachers indoctrinating you.
Yeah.
What does that really look like? Well, here's a book. What does it have to say about this? I do think that the denseness of it really flies over a lot of kids' heads today because the conditioners have been doing a great job of dumbing down America to where they just want the iPads. They just want the iPads and to click and to not have the stamina to read and think.
You talked, who's doing the indoctrinating? At a school that we know, a teacher that we know at this school that we know said to his students, to their students, if you ain't voting for Trump, you got to get your life right. Who's doing the indoctrinating?
Right.
All right. I'm going to try to say thank you as Mr. Clive Staple Lewis.
Oh, cool.
Are you going to do the same?
Sure.
Because I don't know who else we would do it as the Dow, the all mysterious Dow.
Well, now I have to be the Dow.
Thank you.
See, I thought the Dow had a more godlike, behold.
Oh.
No, I don't know. Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Hello to all those out there, and this is Clive Staple Lewis, and I would like to say thank you for listening to this podcast brought to you by these two young fellows. They will be meeting me at the pub later. I believe Tolkien will be there, and they will be discussing their big summer read of 2026, in which they will be doing the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But if you don't know, I have written a trilogy or a set of my own, a saga, and a wardrobe, and a lion and a witch, Aslan, or Jesus, as you might call him. He resurrects and comes from the dead. These children go to Narnia, and I have talked enough, so just want to say thank you.
I say, I'm
the Dow.
I'm here to raise you up, boy. Oh, God. I can't even do that now.
That was perfect.
That was perfect. There's no superseding that.
Nope.
That was perfect. Hey, if you're a fan of good conversations and fresh takes on literature and the kind of school stories that stick with you long after the bell rings, well, I've got a podcast for you. It's called With Honors, and it's where my high school students have taken the microphone, not just to analyze books or talk about our lessons, but to reflect on what we've learned this year, have conversations about what surprised them, how our literature and classroom experiences connect to their real lives. And we talk about everything from symbolism and Poe to the pros and cons of class pets, and all through the voices of smart, curious students who have learned to speak their minds. New episodes drop regularly every week, and everyone is a snapshot of what it looks like when students take ownership of their own learning and have a little fun while they're at it. You can find With Honors on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and our YouTube channel, so check them out.